So welcome to this week's movement video. I'm Alissa Rae, and today with us is Sarah Bly from the Grace of the Moon. And today we get to learn a little bit more about what Sarah does and also the things that she knows about the wisdom and amazing juicy stuff about our bodies as women, and just the very intricate and, I don't know the right word, but amazing journey that our body takes on a monthly basis. So what else would you tell us about what you do? Thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this with me. I really, really am so happy about that.
Well, thank you for asking me.
Mm-hmm.
I love my work and I love talking about it, so every opportunity is a blessing.
Yay.
And I am officially a fertility awareness educator that is housed in my background in midwifery. But I have, for many years, been focusing on work primarily as an educator. And so I teach women about their cycles. And I teach them about what's underneath that, what's going on hormonally in their bodies, and understanding enough about their hormones so that when they see things changing in their bodies and in their signs and symptoms, that they understand why, and they ideally grow a respect and reverence for the depth and beauty of their physical processes and how it affects their emotional and spiritual life as well. So as a fertility awareness educator, I teach workshops, and I do private consults with women. Mm-hmm. I also have a teacher training program, so I work with women who are wanting to do the work that I do. And in addition, I'm a part of a group practice here in Ashland called the Natural Fertility Network. And that work is more aimed towards women who are trying to conceive and having challenges. I work with, my work, since it addresses the hormonal health, the health of the hormones in the body, mm-hmm. and the awareness of those, the information can be translated to a lot of different uses. Mm-hmm. So you can gather this information simply for self-awareness and to be able to track what's going on with the health of your endocrine system, and for that connection to your body and to your cycles and to your health. But you can also take that into a more practical use. When you're wanting to conceive a child, to have that information can be vital, obviously, mm-hmm. Especially for those who it doesn't happen for, doesn't happen to simply or quickly. And also as contraception. You can use the same information to prevent getting pregnant. And maybe I can talk a little bit about that in a moment.
Okay.
And then thirdly, in engaging your hormonal health and actually tracking what hormones are in balance or out of balance, and discovering some tools for what to do with that. So that's the basis of it, and then I could go in different directions.
Sure,
but
one of those common lines that I really like is what I hear you say is, when you understand how you function better.
Yeah.
Like there's, and that is something that my teacher has taught to me about the work that I share with folks, and it's like, where there's that overlap, I get really excited and drawn towards. And where can we reach you? So for instance, I didn't know you're doing this cool new group in Ashland. Yeah. So where can we kind of keep up with you and follow you? Like, you're doing that, or is there a certain place we can get more info?
Yes. So I have a website, which is graceofthemoon.com.
Okay.
So www.graceofthemoon.com.
Okay.
All pretty simple to spell.
Uh-huh.
And I also, the group practice that I'm a part of, which is myself and 2 naturopaths and 1 acupuncturist and a Mayan abdominal masseuse. And that is the Natural Fertility Network. and that's also a .com. So www.naturalfertilitynetwork.com.
Okay. And that's only for local people?
No. Both with my business and with that business, we do Skype or Google Hangouts.
Good.
I do quite a bit of it. With the network, some of the practitioners do. The acupuncturist obviously does not do anything at a distance, but the naturopaths, and neither does the masseuse, but the naturopaths and I both do consults.
Okay. Great.
Great. And then the last thing, which is probably the most active, is my Facebook page.
Okay.
And you can simply look up Grace of the Moon on Facebook, and you should be able to find it. It says, I think, Grace of the Moon, Preconception and Fertility Awareness.
Okay.
And I put up relevant posts, and I announce my classes that way.
Great.
Because in addition to contraception and conception work, I also do general women's health education classes.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make sure those are below so you can all get on the train for the yumminess. What made you want to get started with this? So tell us a little bit about you and why did you choose this? Or did you choose this?
Question. I had the great fortune of having a friend when I was young and moving into my teenage years, or throughout my teenage years, and then I went to college with this good friend who was raised Catholic, and so she was introduced to NFP, Natural Family Planning, which is a similar practice to fertility awareness method, which is one of the aspects of what I teach. And so when I was, I think 18, she gave me a book and introduced me to this. And that was the beginning of my journey. Mm-hmm. And I did really choose. I chose it because I was so deeply affected by that information. And I spent years as a young woman just following everything I could. It really set me into a path of self-exploration. And I'd grown up in a family where there was some health issues, and I had some triggers around, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to do everything I can. So at some points I was probably a little, obsessive about it, but I really wanted to know about health. Uh-huh. And so this is what was presented to me. And, I went on to study midwifery, which brought it to a whole nother level. But ultimately I realized that my passion was with this teaching, because it gave me such incredible gifts in my life of comfort and connection with my intimacy and my sexuality, as well as all these tools to my health. And I had a number of things, health challenges that had to do with my reproductive system over the years, and I just give thanks all the time that I had these tools to work with, because it made a huge difference for me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I see, and I'll just say one more thing, is that I've worked with a lot of women over the years. I've been teaching since 2001, and to feel what moves and what expands in women when I offer this information is a continual reflection of, oh my God, this is powerful, powerful stuff that is nearly missing from our traditional educational system, because we're still kind of coming out of a more patriarchal foundation. Women are ripe and desirous of this material that brings them closer to their own depths and potential.
Yeah, I mean, from me, when I took your class, I remember the most influential thing, and still is, when I look back and think about that class, that, there was a sense of, I get it, women are more emotional or whatever, but just to look at what my body goes through and the wave of it, and to really allow myself that permission that it's okay for my emotions or my sensations or my connections to have that similar kind of up and down fluidity, and that was okay. I didn't need to change or make it something different. I could just allow it to be. And it was Like, I still, like, it makes me want to cry. It's just like, that's so beautiful. Like, it's so amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, going even to the next step of celebrating it. Like, once we can accept it, we can take it to the next place, which is really revel in the fact that we're continuously in these different modes and different ways of being with the world and with our partners and with our families. And
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So maybe you shared a little bit about this already, but what was the most, I think you kind of answered this. I'm going to ask the question anyway. Okay. What was the most influential thing? Like, if you could just choose one thing, what was the most influential thing that you've experienced through this work? So whether or not that's personal, you know, witnessing or having it in your body, like, what was the most influential experience?
Yeah. I'll go with what comes to my, what comes to me first. Which is the practical usage of it in my life. The fact that I have never had to use any kind of hormonal contraceptive, and I've had a trustworthy form of birth control for all of my years of being in partnership, and I've been married for 12 years. We've never used anything except the fertility awareness method, 100% successfully. And when we wanted to conceive, we conceived on the first try. And to call in our child in that way, and invite him with such awareness, between those two aspects of it, like, that definitely tops off everything else.
Yeah.
Is my actual usage of it that way, and what a gift that's been.
Awesome. So just to be clear, for those of us who don't maybe know what the method is, so the method, you're saying you're not using condoms, you're not using diaphragm, you're not using a pill, you're not using any form of birth control except for charting your own body's pattern.
Right.
And knowing the pattern and watching the pattern, and that in itself is a very specific tool.
Yes. So because I've charted for many years, I know precisely when I'm fertile and when I'm not fertile, and it changes slightly from cycle to cycle. So this is way beyond the rhythm method or any kind of calculation methods. It's completely observational. It has changed dramatically over the years to be something very scientifically sound and proven as effective as birth control pill when used according to the rules, which are, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But it involves knowing when you're fertile and when you're not. And so you can always make the choice of using other methods when you're in your fertile time. I personally have used withdrawal. I could count probably on my 10 fingers how many times I've used condoms over the years. So mostly it's just abstinence when I'm fertile or withdrawal, and then having a lot of safe days where I don't need to be concerned. And what's amazing to a lot of women is that, and men, is that this works.
And it's empowering.
I can give you 100 case studies.
Yeah, and there's an empowering sense in it. It's not going into the experience of making love and feeling like, oh no, there is a chance, or we may create a baby from this. There's a sense of real knowing where your body's at, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, can you share with us one simple skill that we can take away and use in our daily life?
Well, again, the first thing that comes to my mind is what the basis of the actual practice is paying attention to what's going on in your genitals and what's coming out of your vagina. And that's, of course, I could talk about that for a long time, but it's not appropriate in this interview. But that connection that we have to our intimate parts, that skill is one that I think that a lot of people in our culture could nurture. In that we have more of a connection, that we're actually, when we're moving around in our day-to-day life, we're paying attention, we're hooked in, we're connected, we can feel what's going on down there, we can feel if there's some energy moving, if there's some heat, right?
Yeah.
Some things are more easy to recognize than others. and how moist it is and how open it is and all of that very intimate knowledge that is it's kind of our secret knowledge that nobody else can really see or know. That my fantasy is that women will slowly become more and more comfortable with their bodies and appreciative of their bodies, and that will serve them in following their own rhythms and cycles and flow. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, that answered the question. And again, something that brought to my mind was like, one time you made a comment about like, you could just try not wearing panties. And it was like that kind of like taking something away that you're used to having all the time brings that more awareness right there, right? It's like, that's a good way to feel what she's talking about. It's like, oh man, I had no idea. Because really, it's like when you don't look, you don't really know.
Yeah.
And it's sort of surprising, but... what do you see a lot in people? So what's a common pattern or a common issue that... And what do you... Like, so what's the... It's a two-parter. What's the question and what's the answer? Or what's the issue and what's the suggestion?
So are you seeking something more medical? Like, I see a lot of thyroid conditions.
Sure, you could go there. You could go wherever you want to go. What's a common or what's fresh for you right now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind is the thyroid thing, is the more medical piece. And then if I go the other direction, it would be about the misinformation. So I'll start with that for a moment, and then I'll spend a little longer on the thyroid. But when I go to the other side of that question, I see like how much misinformation there is out there, and how often I probably said this when you were in my class, that at almost every single class that I teach, somebody in the class says, "Oh my God, why didn't anyone ever tell me this before?" And that triggers me every time, because I realize how crazy it is that we don't have this as a part of our education. So that's one thing. And then going back, I see what's technically called subclinical hypothyroidism, which is women whose thyroids are stressed. They're underactive because of the lifestyle. Often it's the lifestyle that we live in. Of course, there's many other medical factors that come into play, but I'm just making a generalization and saying that I see a lot of cases where there's adrenal fatigue, where women are just doing too much, and they're stretched thin, and it's affecting their endocrine system and therefore their fertility and their health, because they're stretched thin, their adrenals are taxed. It's starting to often affect their thyroid. It's way underdiagnosed. Thyroid conditions are. Blood tests will often say your thyroid's fine, or your doctor won't give you the right blood tests, and so or enough of them, and so that you're not even gathering enough information. But you can see it on your charts. I can see it on women's charts, and it concerns me, because over the years I see it more and more, and it really What's hardest for me is to imagine how many women are suffering and have low energy and other, depleted conditions or situations that aren't necessarily being addressed. And yeah, it's unfortunate. So that would be my more medical answer.
Yeah. And so maybe this is a short answer, maybe it's too much, but when you see that on a chart, what are some suggestions you give? Or like, are there suggestions that would benefit anyone watching this video? And is everyone, like you said, their adrenals get stretched or they're doing too much? Again, it's like, are we all the same? Like, do we all have the same threshold? Do we, like, we're all women. Do we all have the same threshold? Do we all go up and down the same way? And maybe it might sound totally obvious, but what are some warning signs? Like, what does it feel like if I'm doing too much? How do I know? And that, again, might sound totally, like, out there, but it's like, really, I think a lot of us are walking around not really realizing that we're in a state of heightened, like, our nervous system's going crazy, and so...
Right, because it's become such the model of our culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few questions in that, and I'll see if I can address them.
Okay.
We all are very different, and so yes, there's universal things that we can look at as women, but how we react to a different pace or different lifestyle conditions or diet or any of that is going to be completely unique to who we are. And on top of that, I'll say that because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I don't ever say to someone, oh, I see that your charts, indicate you have a thyroid condition. Okay. You should take this, this, and this, and do it. That's not my role. I would refer. But what I do offer is a foundation for endocrine or hormonal health and tips that are going to help women across the board, and they will not harm.
Okay. And
some of them are, yes, specific to adrenals or to thyroid, and then some of them are, about just building your hormones, what the building blocks are. And I teach a whole class on that, but I could offer a couple things. And then the last question of how do we even know? Kind of brings me back to the discussion of the lack of connection that we have in our culture in general to our bodies and our flow and what's natural for us, what's optimal for us. And until we slow down enough to pay attention to what we're feeling, it's all kind of like, it's just this idea out there. We're living in a pretty disconnected time, and so my recommendation is try slowing down and see if you feel better.
Yeah, good, good. Yeah, exactly.
Do less and see how that goes. Because you're probably doing too much. That's what comes to mind when I hear you say that, and that we can feel good. We can feel really good, and the more that we take time and make practices for being in our bodies, whether that's Pilates or the Franklin method or yoga or dance or whatever that is, going on hikes, taking time, to be with our bodies.
Yeah.
So I could just put out a couple little tips for the endocrine system that I think are adrenal thyroid related, and one is right along the line of energy levels, and that is sleep patterns. And one thing that our adrenals really like, which then serves our thyroid, is that we go to bed at a decent hour. And there's this idea out there that either you're a night person or you're a morning person, and that's just your thing. And there's validity to that. I think it's actually, for real. But it gives a lot of women an excuse, or a lot of people an excuse to stay up really late, because that's when they have energy. If you're having any trouble with your energy levels and with your endocrine system, I suggest, even if you're a night person, you try going to bed between 9 and 10, and see how that feels after you've done that for a while. And the second thing, which is actually related to the pineal gland, is also about sleep, and that is sleeping in the dark. When we sleep in complete darkness, like none of those little red or green lights that are on your electronic devices, your cell phone's not next to your bed. You have dark curtains over the windows, no night lights, like really total darkness. That resets your endocrine system in a way, and your pineal gland will produce more melatonin, which is one of the great building blocks in our hormonal system. So between sleeping in that full darkness and then getting sunshine on your skin during the day, those two pieces, which ultimately are about connecting with what's actually happening with our earth. It's dark at night and it gets sunny in the day. And that's one example of the many systems of that our planet they're giving us great opportunities to live in sync, and to live in health.
And kind of we get feedback from the planet, like They just sync up. Yeah.
Yes.
That was a lot of not words, but I think
yeah, exactly. We could go on and on about those things, but the general idea being like ways in which we can listen and respond, and like you're saying, that back and forth relationship.
Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
I don't think so. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that you asked me to come on. I get, like I said, I just get really charged up whenever I get to talk about it.
Yeah, it's great.
I love the work, and I guess I could do a moment of self-promotion in saying that I have the first thing I have is a webinar series coming up for people who are elsewhere.
Great.
But I think I have 1 or 2 spots left. It starts in the beginning of February. So it's online. Anyone, anywhere can do it.
Okay.
And then I have a live Ashland class, or actually I think it might be in Medford, starting in April.
Okay.
And then I'm also doing a class series at Vitalist School of Herbology in Ashland.
Okay.
And that's going to be more general hormonal health rather than the method or the practice. So I'm doing different types of birth control, coming off of hormonal contraception, preconception, healthy, happy hormones, some of my favorites. And I will be co-teaching some of those classes with Jan Carlson.
Oh, cool.
Who's a fabulous teacher and herbalist.
Okay, good.
So you can keep posted on the Vitalist page on Facebook or on my page on Facebook for the timing of those classes. Okay,
awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you,
awesome.
Alissa.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.